good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 17th day of December 2022. Hey, 23 degrees and partly sunny. It's that time of the year when it's supposed to be very warm, but it is very, very, very cold according to this time of the year, is what I mean. Well, ladies and gentlemen, right now, welcome to this weekend edition where we will take a look at some of the news. And of course, we will have the Islamic Women's Association and their domestic violence awareness video will be featured today in today's segment. Hope you can stay around to watch that towards the end of the show today. Well, right now, let's see what's making news.
The top stories now on Weekend Breakfast, and Fiji's military chief says his forces will not intervene in the national elections vote counting controversy. It follows police questioning of opposition leader Sitiveni Rabuka, who called for a forensic audit of the system used to publish official election results after a glitch occurred. A result is expected on Sunday.
A candlelight vigil has been held for the victims of a shooting on Queensland's Western Downs. Constables Rachel McCrow and Matthew Arnold were responding to a missing person report when they were gunned down along with local man Alan Dare. The town last night also raised funds for the victims' families.
The world's largest freestanding cylindrical aquarium has burst in a hotel lobby in Berlin. The tank held 1 million litres of water, which spilled out into the street, damaging parts of the building. 2 people were slightly injured and at least 1,000 fish died.
And in cricket's Big Bash League, the Adelaide Strikers thrashed the Sydney Thunder by 124 runs at the Sydney Showground Stadium last night. The Strikers finished on 9 for 139 before the Thunder was dismissed for just 15 runs. It's the lowest T20 total by a men's team in history.
So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome to the weekend edition of Australian Union Radio. And of course, as I mentioned before, today we will also feature the Islamic Women's Association of Australia and their domestic violence awareness video by the community leaders, a multicultural community that will be there. Up next, the Queensland Police to be farewelled at a service.
Constable Rachel McCrow and Constable Matthew Arnold will be given full police honours when they're farewelled in the state funeral service on Wednesday next week. That will be held at the Brisbane Entertainment Centre, and it'll be a time for not only their families to say goodbye, but the state and Australia as well to pay their respects. As you mentioned, I'm here at the Chinchilla Police Station, and floral tributes here continue to grow even 4 days on from the tragedy. We just spoke with a man who said that he was from New Zealand and he'd been asked to come and perform the haka here to show his respects. It was very emotional and he was in tears, and I think that just goes to show how much this has impacted the Western Downs community. Chaplains have been sent to the region to help provide their support. We spoke with one yesterday who said that the anxiety that a community can feel in the wake of a tragedy like this is immense, and it breaks that sense of safety, I guess, in your home.
We are learning how to deal with fires and floods. How to deal with something like this is something that is way beyond anybody's understanding.
Well, a candlelight vigil will be held here in Chinchilla tonight. That'll double as a fundraiser as well, with all the money going to the families of the 3 victims. I spoke with some aged care residents yesterday as well. They were preparing food for tonight's service, and they said that when they saw the chaos unfolding on the news on Monday night, they thought it was scenes from America and not 40 kilometres down the road.
Yeah, it is still hard to comprehend what went on there, but we are getting more details about the 3 offenders, aren't we?
Yeah, the ABC has heard multiple encounters from people with the 3 offenders. That's Gareth, Nathaniel and Stacey Train. We've heard that multiple complaints were made to the Queensland Education Department about them. Stacey and Gareth worked in roles across Queensland with the Education Department, and One woman has told the ABC that she pulled her kids out of school after her complaints fell on deaf ears. She said that she went to politicians and also priests for help, but she says that they went unanswered. Another woman said that Gareth used to gut pigs on his property which adjoined a school, and she said that he would let the blood run into the school grounds. Now, Education Queensland confirmed that all three people did work for the department at some point, but they wouldn't address whether complaints were made. Lisa?
Pretty astonishing. Laura, thank you.
And thank you very much for that detailed report. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the state funeral will be on Wednesday at the Brisbane Entertainment Centre, the Convention Centre, sorry. Yep. Well, moving on, let's take a look at South Australia and River Murray and the flooding.
The 2022 River Murray floods are reaching levels not seen in nearly 70 years. Up to 220 gigalitres of water a day could flow down the river. The cause of all this water is that the Murray and Darling rivers are both in flood at the same time, and that water is ending up here in South Australia. And in preparation, the South Australian government has created maps of what it expects will happen to the River Murray if flows hit 200 gigalitres a day. Authorities caution these inundation maps should only be used as a guide. They were created in 2014 and haven't been adjusted for any of the new levies. Renmark would be the first town to receive the full flow, 4 days after waters peak at the border. Peter Smith is counting on the reinforced levees built next to his home to do their job.
All the work has to be done before the water gets here, and everybody is hoping, like Hurl, that what they've done is good, and I think it is.
Next in line are the towns of Berry, Loxton and Barmera, which will receive peak flows 2 to 3 days after Renmark. Low-lying homes and shacks are expected to be impacted and roads cut, but mapping shows these centres should come through largely unscathed. While river heights are already surpassing some historic peaks, modelling suggests that water levels will fall short of the disastrous 1956 floods, in which flows reached 341 gigalitres a day, devastating towns like Renmark and Mannum.
We'd go through the sandbags 10 foot high on the roadside, and that was just a bare wall, and the water was running underneath our feet.
In the 2022 flood, it's the lower-lying communities where shacks, many of them substantial holiday homes built just above the river level, are expected to be hit the hardest. Modelling suggests up to 4,000 homes will be impacted. Many properties from Cadell to Morgan to Swan Reach are already partially flooded. There are fears water levels will reach the first floor of many properties as the peak hits about 10 to 12 days after flowing past Renmark. Next in line is Walker Flat, with modelling showing many homes in strife. Further south in Mannum, businesses and homes on the wrong side of the new levee appear at risk, as do properties on the opposite side of the river. While low-lying areas at Murray Bridge appear vulnerable, the town itself should be safe. As the water moves through, it's expected to deliver high river levels for months, giving the Murray Mouth its biggest environmental flush in decades. But for those river residents enduring the impacts, it's going to be a long, difficult summer.
Difficult summer for that part, and of course here, right in Brisbane, the temperatures are below average for this time of the year. Well, right now, IECCC finds that domestic airfares are third higher than before pandemic.
What we've found is that airfares are higher at the moment, and there's 3 reasons that are really driving those airfares higher. The first one is that there's really strong demand. Business travel is coming back, but at this time of the year we're seeing people want to travel. They want to go and visit their family and friends, and they want to go on holidays. So we're seeing really good, strong demand. We are also seeing reduced capacity from the airlines. There are less flights in the sky. We're seeing at the moment only about 85% of the capacity that was available back pre-COVID, and that's down from 95% earlier this year. The airlines are telling us that there are operational reasons for that, including having workforce on standby as well as aircraft and spare parts. And the third reason that's driving those really high airfares is high jet fuel prices, which have increased after the Russian invasion of Ukraine. those jet fuel prices are about a quarter of the operating costs of the airline, so they are putting pressure on airfares. What we're seeing as a result of all of that is that in October this year, airfares on average were about 27% higher than what they were in October 2019, pre-pandemic. But the real impact is happening with the discounted fares, which are at 15-year highs. So that's not great news for the value customers.
Not good news for any traveller. Number one, the congestions at the airport, the time it takes to check in, the security clearances and all that, and the reduced number of flights, and of course the height of fares is just not good enough. Well, right now the union is calling for penalties for abusive customers. How do you monitor that?
This should be the best time of the year, but for some Canberra retailers, it's the worst.
People get upset. You'll be accused of ruining people's Christmases. My Christmas is now ruined because you don't have Waratahs in season. Impatience is one of the big problems for us.
For many workers, incidents like these are all too common. The experiences of some shared on social media saying, "My daughter was bitten on the arm by an elderly woman who was angry that the candle on the shelf was the last one in store. She wanted a fresh one instead." And, "My 15-year-old daughter had tins of tuna thrown at her by a 6-foot 5-inch man. He was banned from the store but should have been arrested." 5 years ago, a survey of retail workers' union members nationally found 85% had been abused at work during the Christmas period. While a study this year by the University of Sydney found 56% of retail workers experienced an increase in the amount of abuse from customers since the start of the pandemic. The retail workers' unions say customers should face harsher penalties for abusive behaviour.
And for those people who cross the line and become offenders rather than customers, they need to be held to account. There needs to be zero tolerance. They should be reported to police and action should be taken.
New training for managers is in the works.
We want to de-escalate the situation. So I understand sometimes there can be that desire to how do I make this customer calm down and be happy, but it should never be a reward.
But the message is simple.
Just be a little bit patient. We're trying to do the best we can. We do not want to ruin your day. We do not want to ruin your Christmas. We want it to be great for everyone.
Calls for respect and kindness in the spirit of the season. Emma Thompson, ABC News, Canberra.
That is all good, but how do you police that? How do you monitor that? Of course, people should be held accountable, and I'm all for that. Accountability is very, very important. Either you are a customer, or even if you are behind the counter, or if you are saving that as well. See. There has to be something that really triggers that kind of behavior, which is completely unacceptable. Look, I'm not saying that that's acceptable behavior. What I'm saying is, how do we police that? That there should be penalties. Who gets the penalty? Who charges the penalty? And how is that policed? That's a big question. There should be more awareness campaigns, I reckon, but once again, it is a social behavior which is unacceptable. Well, right now, former member opens up by who was previously working at the Australian Tribunal.
Look, I'm delighted with the decision. Unfortunately, there was no other way, in my opinion, of restoring Australia's world leadership, in fact, in providing independent tribunal review between the government and government decisions on the one hand, and ordinary Australian citizens who have a concern or grievance with regard to government decisions.
Now, you've got an insider's account there, and it is interesting given that the robo-debt scheme is now the subject of a royal commission, and that your decision while at the AAT to declare it illegal, it preceded your sacking. Can you tell us about your treatment there?
Yes, well, at the last minute my reappointment was pulled soon after those decisions were handed down. I don't want to speculate on whether the decisions were the reason or not. But yes, it is important that the tribunal be reconstituted in terms of its members. It's not only or mainly a question of whether the appointees were political. The problem was that a large number of appointments, the people were not competent to do the job. And the reason for that is that they weren't interviewed and there was no independent assessment of their suitability. So that needs to be fixed. And with respect to things like robo-debt, it is true that about 50 decisions of that tribunal saying it was unlawful went entirely secret and unheard by the public. And that's because, for good reason, Social Security clients are entitled to a private hearing. But there, in the future, needs to be a change made so that an anonymised version of decisions like the ones that I handed down are able to be made public so that government of whatever political stripe can no longer game the administrative appeals tribunal by basically just ignoring and keeping secret the decisions of the umpire. So there are a number of issues like that I see that High Court Judge Patrick Keane is leading an expert advisory committee and that they're going to be working on the shape of the new tribunal, and I think that's an excellent way to go about setting it back on track.
What would you say the culture was like there because of what you've just mentioned there? And I don't know if you're in contact with anyone still part of that, what the culture is like of late.
Look, morale was very low when I was last there, and yes, I do keep contact, and I know that it has continued to decline. And look, one of the reasons for that is that the tribunal has been underfunded, so I'm also delighted to see that the $65 million of government money to appoint more members so that decisions are able to be made more quickly. NDIS applicants have been waiting sometimes for 12 months or more. That's should never be permitted. And secondly, hearings were sometimes too abbreviated. And again, that was just mainly because too little money was made available to the tribunal.
The funding will be funding that has been made available hopefully makes the situation a little bit better, less in case of NDIS people had to wait for over 1 year. That is unacceptable. Right now let's go to Fiji, where the elections didn't quite go the way it was planned.
Things may look rosy in Fiji's capital, but there's tension in the air.
Please, there's no coup. We don't want any more coup.
Talk of military intervention in the wake of Fiji's national election has some citizens on edge.
People still a little bit shaking now. I'm not afraid, but don't know, God knows now.
It began with a glitch in the mobile app used for publishing election results on Wednesday night, which led 4 opposition parties to call for a total recount of the vote.
Fiji will not and should not accept an election result that is clouded with mysterious glitches and stoppages.
People's Alliance leader Sitiveni Rambuka asked the Fijian military commander to intervene, sparking anxiety in a country with a history of military coups. The request was refused, so the parties are now turning to the people of Fiji.
We are going to the people of Fiji and asking them to lend their support for our cause.
It will show to the court how important the issue is and how much of a national concern it is.
And the election is being watched closely by a group of countries, including Australia, invited to observe.
The MOG did not observe any significant irregularities or issues during pre-polling, postal voting or election day voting.
For now, vote counting continues, with the main opposition party, the People's Alliance, slightly ahead in the tally. But it's still early days, with a final result not expected until Sunday. Marion Farr, ABC News, Suva.
There you go, big problem in a little country, and elections have never, after that first coup till now, all the elections have been sort of with somewhat tension in the community. Well, right now, as promised, here's that video from the Islamic Women's Association of Australia featuring multicultural community leaders.
It starts with respect, it starts with me. On average, one woman a week is killed at the hands of a former or current intimate partner.
Children are also under-recognized victims of this crisis. We all have a responsibility to speak up against violence.
We will not accept notions of inequality that are at the core of this crisis. We will not tolerate or participate in the subjugation of women.
We will not allow sexist jokes to continue. We will challenge attitudes and beliefs that suggest women are inferior or are possessions.
We will not condone the abuse of women and children. As men, we promise to make the world a safer place.
Nearly 1 in 3 migrant and refugee women in Australia have experienced some form of domestic and family violence.
Domestic or family violence is the greatest health risk factor for women aged 25 to 44.
Both men and women are 3 times more likely to be assaulted by a man. Let's not pretend that this is not a gendered issue.
As a man, we stand before you and say,
together we will work with you to create a positive change.
Together we will promote healthy relationships.
Together we will call out toxic behaviour.
Together we will challenge discriminatory language.
Together we will raise boys and men to respect and value women as equals.
Together we will make the world a safer place for all.
Together we say no to violence.
I say no to violence.
Tôi chống bạo hành. Stop kekerasan terhadap wanita dan anak-anak dalam keluarga.
নারী এবং শিশুদের প্রতি নির্যাতন বন্ধ করুন.
ខ្ញុំថាអត់ទេចំពោះអំពើអង្សាយ
Nikasema hapana kwa vurugu.
ሽደተ ሃይር
ንዝኾነ ዓመፅን በደልን ኣብ ልዕሊ ካልኦት ኣይፋል ንበል
हम हिंसा के लिए ना कहते हैं.
मैं तशद्दुद के खिलाफ हूँ.
نحن نقول لا للعنف.
Ja kažem ne nasilju.
Haure kabingure bijabata fes fes.
We say no to violence.
I say yes to respect, equality and compassion.
And a very well produced video, I must say, but the second part of the video is this rap put together by the youngsters.
We don't talk about this enough. Let's talk about it.
Let me start by repping what Tupac said. Maybe then you'll understand the meaning of men. Cause we came from a woman, why we hit him instead. Made in a woman, but your hands on her neck. How can you claim that you're manly and tough when you go home? Only does your wife have cuts. Struggling to find a way out of the shrubs. Cause the one she loved the most got her battered and punched. Like, you serve to protect. It's your duty as a man to show love and respect. Your mom, the main person in your life, is a woman. We survive with a woman, the ones we should defend. Growing up with 2 little sisters got me stressed. Knowing 1 in 5 women in this country get oppressed. From the hands of the one that she feels safest in instead. When they go home, why do they feel safer out instead? It starts within you. The bottles and the drugs, man, they ain't no excuse. I know it gets hard when your past is abused, but the love you didn't find should be the dime to how you cruise. Take the time to cherish what you have. Strive to be the best to yourself and all around. I know you're still young, but it starts from the ground. If you didn't know, then you better get to know now.
and beautifully put together. Congratulations to the team and ZK starring Zain Khan, Hazma Sahid, Zain Muhammad, Rahib Tayyub, Salah Hussain and Wada Al Tahir. The video was created by Dr. Nora Ahmed, Nahir Al Tahir and Nadia Sahid. Well done to the team on putting that together. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to say goodbye until Monday when we'll be back with the 9 a.m. news. Until then, it's goodbye from us. Have a wonderful weekend. It is the festive season. Please enjoy the festivities when you go out, but always be mindful of the social behavior and the norm. You enjoy, let others enjoy, and if you're driving, please take extra care on the roads. Until Monday, it's goodbye from us.